Recto, which is the gateway towards Divisoria, Chinatown, Binondo, and likewise Quiapo. So these are cultural areas which you may want to explore. But for our foreign delegates, please ask the conference secretariat and other local delegates maybe to accompany you when you go out of campus sightseeing. To the organizers, congratulations for this momentous occasion, and again, welcome to FEU. Have a fruitful conference. Thank you, and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Dean Chavez, for that welcome message. So we would like to thank everyone who have attended this conference with the theme, Disciplining the Discipline, the History, Theory, and Practice of International Relations in the Philippines. And to give a welcome message, may I call on Ms. Frances Antoinette Cruz, the President of the Philippine International Studies Organization. Please give her a round of applause.
Good morning, distinguished speakers, representatives of the Global South Caucus, colleagues, students, and friends. I'd like to welcome you all to the inaugural conference of the Philippine International Studies Organization. With the topic of this conference, we primarily wish to provide a venue where the development of international studies and international relations in the Philippines can be discussed and future directions for research and policy put forward. When the Philippine International Studies Organization began in 2015, we wished to pursue a three-point agenda as our main institutional raison d'être, if you will. Firstly, our first goal was to network students, professors, and scholars within the Philippines and facilitate broader relations with the wider world of IR scholars outside the Philippines, as networking. Our second goal, through conferences, workshops, publications, and commentaries, we hope to be able to encourage scholarship in international relations and international studies and create venues and possibilities to form a critical mass of thematic specialists for scholarly collaborations. And thirdly, we wish to promote our research agenda to bring light to Philippine contributions to international relations and sources for IR theories and concepts in the Philippines and in the Southeast Asian region. Since we began in 2015, we have become a member of the International Studies Association, the World International Studies Committee, and the International Political Science Association. PHISO members and delegations have joined the Global South Caucus workshops in New Delhi in India. We have also participated in ESA Asia Pacific, a conference in Hong Kong, which was held last year, ESA Baltimore, and we will be organizing a workshop and panels on sources of IR in the Philippines at the WIS conference to be held in Taipei this April, and as well as ESA Hong Kong, June. And for our first conference, we have several major activities. Apart from the panels that are taking place in this room, we have the Global South Caucus Workshop, which will take place on the 9th and the 10th of March, so that's tomorrow and the day after, and that will take place in one of the rooms across the hallway. And on the third day, we decided to do something special, which was to provide a venue where students can talk about their own research, and these are undergraduate students, most of whom come from Ateneo de Davao, so I'd like to acknowledge that we have many participants from the Visayas and Mindanao, which we are very excited about. Through our engagement with students, we hope to, in cooperation with our institutional hosts all over the country, make the field more palpable, to make it felt by not only scholars of international relations and professors, but also by students and the general public who have an interest in the international. And it is with this I would like to invite you to join us in our many endeavors and to engage with us, and also wish you a pleasant and productive day ahead and an International Women's Day. Please enjoy that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Frances. So indeed, for the next 3 days, we will have the privilege to network with different IR scholars from various parts of the country and even from other parts of the world. At this moment, we would like to introduce our keynote speaker, So may I call on Dr. Nasef Adyong, one of the faculty of the Far Eastern University Department of International Studies. Please give him a round of applause.
Hello everyone. I'm very, very happy that everyone have come from Mindanao to Visayas, coming here at FE in Manila. And very glad that almost everyone are young scholars of international studies, primarily on the Global South section of international relations. I'm very excited that that I'm introducing one of, I think, the best mentor I've had since my graduate program in UP Diliman. And Professor Dr. Clarita Carlos is the Il Peggio Quirino Professor of International Relations and the Maximo Calao Professor of Peace and Environment of the UP Diliman. Now, Professor Carlos received her PhD in Political Science at the same university. She was the recipient of 2 Fulbright fellowships, postdoctoral in political psychology at Cornell University and postdoctoral in comparative foreign policy analysis at the University of California at Los Angeles. She was also the former president of the National Defense College of the Philippines and the current executive director of the Center for Political and Democratic Reform Incorporated. Now please help me welcome the most distinguished keynote speaker that we've had for the first International Relations Conference dedicated for the youth, for the young scholars of IR. Please help me welcome Professor Dr. Clarita R. Carlos.
Good morning, everyone. When you're 71 years old, somebody has to help you go up these 4 steps here. Thank you very much. This is the first time for me to come to the FEU, and my father was an alumnus here. I don't know how long ago. He was born in 1912, so I don't know when he was here. I'm sure, were you here already during the Japanese occupation? Maybe. I forgot to ask my father when he graduated with a degree of accountancy. So I'm very pleased to have been invited by my star student, Nasef Adyong. And we are members of the Mutual Admiration Society, you know. And I remember that when I did a lecture series in Istanbul, Nasef had nothing to talk about except the PHISO, you know, like it was like, it's his baby, and I'm glad the baby has been born. And so robust. So congratulations to you and Frankie. You know, when you've been teaching for 50 years, as I have, everyone has been your student. I don't know if that's good or not good. I'm sorry, my voice is going up and down because I've been talking too much. The faculty here in the room would know that this is the thing that happens to us when we're so talkative. All right. What did I prepare for you today? Actually, I did not have a paper. What I usually do when I want to prepare a paper or want to write an article is I do the conceptualization first in my mind, and for some reason I do great conceptualization when I'm washing our clothes. I don't know why. My hypothesis is that maybe because, you know, the churning of the washing machine, I would lean against the washing machine and would look towards my yard, and it's the one that, you know, fuels my mind. I don't know. But yes, so I had conceptualized this for a number of days, and when last week when I did not have a voice, an audible voice, and early this morning, I was ready to type it in the computer, and the computer died. Yeah, it knows when to die. And so, but that was good because I have not written in longhand, and so I wrote in longhand. And because I'm a stupid person and did not know how to turn this into a PowerPoint, I had to rely on my research team to change this into a PowerPoint. So thank you so much, my research team. Yes, once upon a time there was no PowerPoint and we were just talking, you know. So here you will see a PowerPoint which is powerful, not something which is noisy and where, you know, everything is on the board and you're just reading, which is the most heinous kind of PowerPoint. The title of my paper is The Othering. I don't know if you've heard the term, but the othering comes from the term the other, yung iba, the sources of our divides. Actually, I did not even read the theme of the conference, and I'm glad now I know that what I prepared is so apropos to the theme of the conference. Let's have some brief excursion in history. What was the political science like in the 60s? Of course, international studies is a child of political science. It cannot designate itself as a separate discipline. What was it like in the 60s when Dr. Onofric Corpus was one of our chairmen? There was, in the 60s, a Filipino chairman of the Department of Political Science. If you look at our course offerings, some of which you will still see in the listing of political science courses, they were mostly copied from the Ivy League universities, mainly from University of Chicago and from Princeton University. Laziness was not, you know, our attribute. The other generation was also lazy, so they just copied. But really, the explanation was that we really didn't know what political science looked like. So it had to be defined for us, and they were defined for us by the leading universities, and the leading universities were Princeton and University of Chicago. I'm sure in your lectures with Professor Adyong, you have discussed the Chicago School of Political Science, which moved away from the usual historical, legalistic perspective of political science to the more quantified behavioral kind. Majority of our faculty did not have PhDs. In fact, it was not until Carlos P. Romulo became president that because of his diplomatic skills, he was able to get from Ford, from Rockefeller, and from many others, money, funds, to send us to American universities. It is not a surprise that political science in the Philippines is American political science. Except for Dodong Nemenso, who is a colleague and who eventually became our president, who went to Manchester, the rest of us came from American universities. And later on, you'll discover the consequences of such. So the syllabi that you find, the literature, the readings, are mostly written by, can we go to the next slide? The readings were written by scholars from the US. I'm sure the authors, Rosno, Huntington, Morgenthau, Lucian Pai, they are all, you know, so familiar to all of you, I as scholars. And at the time I was a student in the early 60s. The issues that we were discussing were, of course, the issues of newly independent states. And what was most popular at the time were development courses. So, and many of development courses were so configured that they were talking about a particular end state, which end state was really the Western kind of modernization. And invariably, as you discuss a Model X, that Model X was US democracy, and therefore the indicators of a successful democracy was US democracy. Now, has anything changed from 50 years ago? Today, a whole lot has changed from 50 years ago. The post-war world has saw the increasing numbers of newly independent states, including us, in 1946. I will be 71 years this year, and of course, one of my legs is already in the grave, and our republic, which is about as old as I am, is still a teenager searching for who it is. What do we see today? The world today is full of walls. North Koreans divided from South Koreans. I just brought my research team, who is here, to Korea, and we went to Panmunjom. And they could not see why in this modern world, advanced technology, there is a barbed wire dividing two peoples. South Korea beaming in very, very loud, deafening noise, Western music. North Korea trying to drown the South Korean music with martial music. Yes, it's almost funny actually. You know, palakasan ng mikropono in the armistice area. The Israelis from the Palestinians, the Northern Irish Catholics from Northern Irish Protestants. Despite the Good Friday Agreement, you still have these walls, physical walls, dividing the Irish Catholics from the Irish Protestants. And of course, you see the walls dividing the Turkish Cypriots in Cyprus from the Greek Cypriots. And if we go back in history, the walls are not modern contraptions. You, of course, have the Great Wall of China. You have the Berlin Wall, which has since come down. And of course, that guy who is now the tenant in the White House with a heinous hairdo wants to separate Mexico from the U.S. And, yes, I'll sit down later. Thank you. Kasi alam niya matanda na ako, so he gave me a chair. And of course, with a stupid proposal to make Mexicans pay for the wall, he forgot there's an airplane. You know. All right, what are the sources of all these walls? The physical walls. They are really walls in our mind, and we just represented them and demonstrated them in the physical walls. Why all these walls? And the quick answer is othering. What is the phenomenon of othering? Is it a psychological or sociological concept? I examined the literature, and I saw that indeed the titles were in the psychological and the sociological literature. But I aver and I declare that it is a political concept, because it is a concept of power structure. You talk of the other because you separate yourself from other human beings when you talk of the other. And the most vile consequence of the other, of the othering, is you think of the other as inferior. So you say, Muslims are the other, and they are inferior. Women are inferior because, unlike us who swing our hair when we are selling what? Shampoo. They cover their hair because they think that the hair will be a source of sexual attraction and the like. And so you say the Muslims are inferior. The Muslims are the other. And the other does not belong. You have to put up walls. The Prime Minister of Hungary, Orban, is putting up concertina wires. Austria is putting up walls. They want to build a wall, and they are paying Turkey, tempting Turkey with the EU membership, which Turkey is no longer interested in right now, by saying, please, all the refugees which are streaming in from North Africa and from elsewhere, the countries which have invaded, please, we don't want them in Europe. Because they are Muslims, they're not Christians, and yes, they are not white. They don't belong. The other is not entitled to the same privileges and the rights that the South is entitled to. And what is the most terrible and the most heinous consequence of the othering? It is that it is really the source of all conflicts. I challenge you to identify any one conflict which is not underpinned by the othering. I don't know which university is FEU quarreling with. Volleyball, basketball. We always say the UP is the only university. The rest are the other universities. Of course, that's yabang, and I'm sure, and we don't want to declare that. Of course, we say, the one in Ateneo, in Katipunan, Miriam, the other universities. And of course, we don't want to do that because we again do the othering and we separate ourselves from the rest of the world. Another brief excursion in history. Nearly 400 years ago, in 1648, you had the Treaties of Westphalia. There, Westphalia introduced the concept of territoriality and sovereignty. You have to ID yourself in terms of your geography, in terms of land, sea, airspace, and you have to talk of sovereignty in terms of not being interfered with by other elements, other countries, and being able to declare supreme authority within the bounds of your geography, within your territorial waters, within your airspace. Westphalia, can you go back to the previous, is a game changer in the relations among peoples, different peoples. Westphalia delineated the bounds of, can you go to the previous one? The physical boundaries of the land, sea, and airspace. And Westphalia delineated the territories which now are embedded in what we call international law, and a very good example of which is the UNCLOS. We see in the rising and falling of empires changing boundaries. We know the fall of the Ottoman Empire, which drew the map of the Middle East. There was no Lebanon. There was no Kuwait. Kuwait was part of the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia. Why did they carve out Kuwait? Not because they had cauliflowers and broccoli there. I'm sure you know what Kuwait had. And Saddam Hussein was correct. Kuwait was its province, and the oil and the natural gas was in fact attractive to the two powers who, at the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire, redrew the map of the Middle East, and some lazy guy, he remembered this, geometry. He said the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and so he drew a straight line. In the process, the straight line divided mountains, peoples, tribes, etc., which you also see in Africa, by the way. So, there you have it. I'm sure you know the story of Palestine. Libya now is divided into two Libyas, where the oil and natural gas are. Iraq, I'm sure you remember our favorite prime minister who helped in the invasion of Iraq. His name is Tony Blair. What did he want to do? He wanted to divide Iraq into three: the Kurdish part, the Shiite part, and the Sunni part. Have you not wondered why the favorite verb of the Western world is to divide? Divide Vietnam, divide Korea. Because the Hindus and the Muslims are fighting in India, divide India into two. Pakistan, divide Pakistan into two, West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Thankfully, East Pakistan became Bangladesh. Divide Kashmir. And I'm sure divide is not our favorite world, but that we also have set apart ourselves from the Western world. But yes, divide is not our favorite verb. Our favorite verb is unite. Look how the Western religions tell you that the only way for you to go to, I don't know that concept, heaven, purgatory, or whatever, is for them or for you to worship in their religion. That's a divide, isn't it? And all of them style themselves as a religion of tolerance and peace. Iraq, Syria. What is happening to Syria? Syria can no longer call itself a state. It is divided in, oh, I don't know. Even I get confused as who is who in Syria. The U.S. is confused, so they don't know whom are they funding, you know. It's the best time to go to Syria to make money. So is the nation state the greatest scourge of mankind? Or is it the greatest invention? The nation state, you will note, reified. It is stressed the divides in our minds. Look at the South China Sea with 6 claimant states. Do you know that China claims that it has to draw that so many dashed line which already had been refuted by the International Tribunal because of food security? But we keep on reminding our Chinese colleagues, do you know the fish that you harvest in where you claim jurisdiction? They were born in our waters in Palawan. And so the fish, before it can become an adult, has to get a visa from China because it has to go to that part where the ambient conditions will allow it to become an adult. And yes, China is harvesting all the fish in their jurisdiction. And so we're saying, for God's sake, China, can you just share some kilos of fish with us? Because after all, the fish was born in Palawan, in our waters. The story is absurd, isn't it? But that is the absurdity of dividing the seas. Have you been on a plane and have you seen the waters? Do you see the divides in the waters? No. It is us as stupid people who divided the waters. I'm sure the fish are becoming mentally ill because we have divided them in so many political jurisdictions. Of course, you know the 7 artificial islands that they have created, and they destroyed our reefs. And they wanted, on top of these 7 artificial islands, the ADIZs, the identification zones, which the U.S. keeps on taunting, because the U.S. keeps on flying over these zones and challenging the Chinese who keep on shouting, hello, hello, please identify yourself, you're flying over Chinese territory. And the U.S. response is, hello, hello, we are flying over international airspace. Oh my God, I hope they don't come to blows and let us please stay in the margins, because when 2 giants fight, we have no business being in the middle. So we see that the physical and the psychological divides are exacerbated by the othering, by talking of the others set apart from yourself. Thus, the I, the we, and the us, we discovered, cannot be defined except in terms of the they and the them. If you tell me I'm Clarita Carlos because I'm Clarita Carlos, that is a tautology, isn't it? But you have to define me in terms of being a retired professor of political science, a professor of NASEF Adjong, a sister of my siblings, a daughter of my parents, etc. The I does not have any meaning except in relation to the other. And so we repeat, the othering is a political construct. The powerful defines, and the powerless is defined. You remember that U.S. President who invented the concept of the axis of evil? It should be the axis of evil, by the way. I'm sorry. The axis of evil. Iran, North Korea, Libya. The powerful U.S. defining the powerless Iran, Libya, and North Korea. And please do not refer to us as the Far East, because our Far East is across from the Pacific Ocean, which is the United States of America. Who defined us? Why do you have the Near East, Nasef? Turkey, isn't it? Near what? Near Great Britain. The Middle East from Great Britain. The Far East, us, far from Great Britain. When it was, of course, still an empire, and it was still great. In fact, I joked with the, what is this, the Tagalog-speaking ambassador of Great Britain. Nasef, have you met him? He really speaks great Tagalog. I told him, "Oy, ambassador, Britain is no longer great. Can you please drop great?" And he disagreed with me. Guys, once upon a time, for a long, long time, we had a course in the UP called The History of the Far East, and we were talking about ourselves. For God's sake, we are not the Far East. We are in Southeast Asia. Let's just talk of the geography in terms of, you know, the north, south, east, west orientation. So let us stop calling ourselves Far East, because it's absurd. The Middle East, in my class in geopolitics, we refer to as West Asia. West of us. And yes, this time we're doing the defining. So what is to be done? What is your role as scholars? One is to seek a better, deeper, and broader understanding of the sources of our divides and consequently the sources of conflicts. Next, you have to seek explanations why certain peoples believe that the others do not deserve the kinds of creature comforts, wants, and desires that you also enjoy. Next, you have to seek explanations for increasing levels of inequalities. And then you have to identify ways by which capitalism will have a more humane face and will address issues of inequality. And then you have also to seek explanation for why you want a borderless world, which is ASEAN's regional integration goal. You have to seek explanation also for why our African colleagues would like to go back to a continent which has not been divided by London. You have to seek ways to explain why you can study anywhere. Please do not inbreed in FEU. Study everywhere, because that is what ASEAN integration is all about. You are not only moving goods and services, we are moving people, we are moving faculty, we are moving students. And you want to find ways to seek and to have a partner, whoever you want and whoever you want to love. And then you have to find ways to put back morality into our politics, not the morality of organized religion. I don't belong to any organized religion. I believe in the energy of the universe. Of course, I believe in myself first. We want the humanity in politics to be underpinned by the humanity and integrity, the morality in politics to be underpinned by the humanity and the integrity of the individual. Where is PHISO in all this? I want PHISO, Nasef, to lead in the campaign to demolish all the divides around you. I want PHISO to be an active actor in dismantling all these physical and psychological divides. I want PHISO not to set itself from the rest of the scholars all over the world. Later, I want PHISO to drop the word Philippines in your name because you are one with the rest of the IS scholars all over the planet. There is no the other IS scholars. There are only IS scholars. Patriotism is a bad word. Nationalism is a bad word. You are not a Filipino. You are not a citizen of the Philippines. You are a citizen of the world. Thank you.
So we will open the floor for questions to our dear keynote speaker. Anyone who is interested to ask a question, can you please approach the mic in front? Anyone? Okay, the floor is open for questions to our dear keynote speaker, Dr. Clarita Carlos. And your students, take this opportunity to learn from her. Anyone who has a question?
I am sure they were overwhelmed by my admonitions. I'm sure many people will be angry with me, and please echo what I have declared to you. And I want you to defend it.
Go ahead, please ask questions. These are opportunity to ask our distinguished scholar here about international relations, current updates of literature in the study of the international.
So now, sir,
we
maybe,
have one there. Okay, there's a mic here in along the aisle.
I hope
in the
you
middle
don't
of the
mind if
aisle.
I just sit down here.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So I don't have to go through the stairs.
Hello, good morning.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm Alexandra Suyo from Ateneo de Davao University. So, your presentation was very nice. It was rather idealistic, I think. How do you think we could be able to achieve such a world, such a borderless world where we don't have a concept of the other, considering that conflict, even the small things, the smaller conflicts that we have today, is very hard to get past. That's all. Thank you.
You are young people. If you kill your ideals, then you're dead. So kill yourself already. So, yes, you have to have ideals. You have to think of so many years from now when you should be a PhD. I always tell my students in the UP, the BA is not a terminal degree. You have a Bachelor of Arts, you go sell banana queue in the street. The competition is in the PhD. Thank God you're not paying tuition anymore. You have to go for the PhD. You will be competing on the PhD level. You need ideals. This is the borderless world is a good person. You may not be able to reach that, but it is something that you will have to think about and something that you need to target. Did anyone think that there will be a European Union? Did you think that you would have a Far Eastern University? Did you think that we would have a RAND Corporation? You know, RAND Corporation, one of the biggest think tanks in the U.S., now is a huge conglomerate based in Washington, D.C. Do you know when I first visited it, in the 70s, it had only 2 chairs. And it was in a cubicle in Santa Monica, California. You have to think big, guys. As I said, kill yourself if your ideals are already. I'm sure it's a metaphor for, you don't have any ideals except to have a girlfriend, to have a boyfriend, to get married and to live happily ever after. So I don't know. I think FEU should expel you. You should have ideals. This is the ideal. We already made commitments in ASEAN in 2003. Our commitment is to remove all the borders of ASEAN. I want you to study in Singapore, in Thailand, in Cambodia. I want you to see it with, do you know what love is? Love is physics, time and space. You were classmates, diba? You were friends. Later on, you decide to get married. And Brad Pitt, who is Brad Pitt, the boyfriend of a famous actress? I think he was right when he was asked, what is the solution? What is really the way to world peace? And he said, intermarriage. From his stupid self, he knew the answer, that it is intermarriage. Because intermarriage will obliterate the other. I know you have a good question. That it is very difficult to really remove the other. FEU versus, I don't know with whom you are quarreling or competing. But yes, that's fine in the interest of sports, in the interest of excellence. But that should not be a continuing divide. So that, I'm sure you've heard of our very brutal fraternity wars in the UP. And I was lecturing in my class in the 80s when somebody entered my classroom and attacked one of my students who was in the rival fraternity, where a security guard of the UP was killed. Why? Because the APO is different from P Omicron, from Scintilla Juris. Now the San Beda, what is the fraternity there? Lex Talionis, no? Wow. Guys, do you know the concept of Lex Talionis? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Okay then. I don't know. You locate yourself in this debate. Yes, I want you young people to have ideals. I'm so sad I'm already 71 because Nazif, I want to teach all over the region. I want a diploma to look like a diploma from Southeast Asian University. I tell my research team, do not inbreed in the UP. You're already so radical. You cannot be more radical, Please go somewhere and go to FEU and radicalize them. I'm being facetious, of course. Whenever I deliver a lecture, and a good lecture in my research class, and that's a 3-hour lecture, it's a graduate course, and I have like 7, 8 students, and I tell myself, ay nako, what a waste. I lost my voice. I studied so much for the 3-hour lecture, and only 7 students listened to me. I wish FEU listened to me, the research course in FEU listened to me. The deans, I hope you can think about that. I want to lecture in the UP, and I want LaSalle to students to interact with my students. I'm sure you have the technology. I'm a stupid person, so I don't know what the technology looks like. But yes, I want my students to interact with some Pakistani scholars, wherever they are, because we have already bridged the divides in terms of geography. My son who lives in Arizona, I talk to him every day. And sometimes I wish there were no such technology because, well, we talk every day, and you know what happens when a son and a mother talks. The son asks all the time from the mother. I'm again being facetious. You are living in a very exciting world, but a dangerous world too, depending on how you handle advanced technology. So please, don't talk of loving the Philippines. Don't talk of Filipino-ness. Don't talk of Ilocano versus Visayan versus Do you notice how the first things after we ask our name that we ask another person is, taga saan ka? Then we say, you're from Ilocos, and you talk to that person immediately. I see also this dynamics in an ASEAN regional forum. Guess who among the ASEAN nationals we will immediately speak with or be friends with? Do you know who? Correct, Indonesians. Not so much Malaysians. I will not share it with you here. It's not a good story. Indonesians, because they're also good looking like us. Yes. And of course, their language, Bahasa, is so close to our Ilocano, Tagalog, etc. But yes, it's the Western, the colonizers who divided us. Remember the popes, the papal bull who divided the world? Oh my God, thank God they discovered 7 new planets, some of them habitable. So I guess, yes, let us quarrel over that real estate. That's a vast one. And maybe the Israelis and the Palestinians will abandon their quarrel and look for other frontiers in other planets. Again, I am being facetious, but I'm trying to make a point. So I'm very sorry for a long-winded answer to a short question, but yes, you young people, you must have ideals. You must aspire for something. When you wake up in the morning, you have to wake up for something. And that something should have, is this dead? And that something should be underpinned by what I call morality.
Hello, sound.
And I say, God damn it, where's the blackboard and the chalk? So I don't waste time. Yeah, we're hostage to technology. Now I'm hostage to technology because that darn mic does not want to operate. All right, any more questions? Don't be afraid, guys. I'm as stupid as you are. So ask away because I'm leaving right after this. Sige.
Sound.
Good morning, Dr. Carlos. I'm a Philippine Studies student from De La Salle University. Isn't the concept of internationalization or internationalism it's undergoing an ideological debate? For example, the neoliberal people think of it differently from the Marxist critical theory, ganyan. And Professor Tiempo, a known Filipino writer, mentioned a long time ago na in an effort to unite the Philippines, we implemented, for example, national language policy na based in Tagalog, ganyan. And she thought of it as some kind of colonization. Yung term niya doon ay fourth colonization. And so where we yung otherness ay may ideological debate din. Yan.
Yes, there will always be a philosophical underpinning in every articulation that we make. And I hesitate to use the word ideology because it's dead. We all just want to be wealthy. Who wants to be poor here? Again, please scale yourself. Yes, we all want to be wealthy. We want creature comforts, isn't it? But ideology or theoretical frameworks, they are really just our hunches about how we want to achieve the good life, isn't it? And so I hope your professors will not give you an examination on what neoliberalism is, on what constructivism is, etc. You should just be tested on what these prisms are and to what extent they are explaining relations among peoples and relations among organizations and groups. But they should not be memorized first for what they are. When I'm interviewed by several networks and they asked about communism, I said, I don't know who a communist is. I remembered Angelo Reyes when I was still at Defense. And Angelo Reyes really hates me, you know, because I'm from the UP, and second, I was the only Orle Mercado appointee left in the Department of National Defense. So one time he visited the college, and he said, you know, Dr. Carlos, why I hate the UP? That's the word he used, huh? Why? Because you are the manufacturers of communists. Well, because he was a guest in my college, I could not respond back to him, but I wanted to say, I was screaming in my mind, hello, Angelo Reyes, there are no longer communists. And the reason why Marxism or any other ideology thrives in the UP is we do not hostage our students' minds. In fact, I tell them, you know, guys, so long as you don't come to class naked because you're going to create a scandal, I really don't care what you wear. Frankie, I'm sure Frankie has been my student 1,000 times in the UP, so she knows what I'm talking about. So she usually comes in shorts and nakapaa lang siya. I don't care because she's one of my star students. You know what I mean? We free the mind of the student. That is what liberal education is all about. We don't tell you what to believe in. It's like a buffet, no? I don't tell you, uy, ito ha, bilhin mo apritada. I'm sure that's what they do in the Catholic schools. Excuse me, ha? And other religious organizations. We as scholars, we end our sentence with an ellipsis, ... We end our sentence with an exclamation point. We end our sentence with a question mark because we are asking questions all the time. We are the reformers of society. We are not only seeking to understand what's going on, we want to change it, isn't it? It's corny to just understand. You go beyond understanding. I always say, how many of you have declared this corny statement, I love you forever? La, which one there is conceptually unacceptable? Which word? Oh, which word?
Forever.
Yes. Because forever does not have an empirical referent. What is your name, gentlemen?
Jaconiah Dreisbach.
Oh my Lord, what a... Jeconiah Lewis. Unique name. Jeconiah. You should say instead, ladies and gentlemen, Jeconiah, today I love you. I love you today. Bukas tanungin mo uli ako, ha? Why? Isn't relationship all about day-to-day working on it? So, don't let me catch you using the term forever because it does not have an empirical referent. And as scholars, whenever you cannot defend the word, expunge it from your vocabulary. Do you agree? I'm not getting any response. This is a dead group. Do you agree that you should expunge from your vocabulary something you cannot defend? Yeah. And please improve your vocabulary and pay attention to your grammar. To respond to your question, why are we putting flags in language? Language is just communication. When I speak English, people will say, ay, colonial yan si Dr. Carlos, because English siya. Oh my God! Do you know what's his name, Pepe Abueva? Do you recall, guys? Pepe Abueva, when he became president of the university, he said, within 3 years, dapat, we should be teaching graduate courses in Filipino, in Tagalog, no? Which, of course, they call Filipino, and I don't think there's any difference. And here is stupid me following the memo, and I tried to lecture NASEF in Filipino about developing states. Believe me, I was perspiring. And the concepts were in English, and globalization, hindi ko maisip. Ano nga yung globalization? Before you have a label, you have to have an experience, isn't it? Before you have a concept, you have to have an experience. I'm sure when you tell the Americans who only know the Cavendish banana in their markets that there are 10,000 banana kinds in the Philippines, they don't believe you. There is the Senorita, there's the Gloria, there is different colors of banana. And when they tell you that ugly mango which comes from Mexico, which tastes awful, they know that's only the mango. And we tell them, there are 1,000 species of mango. There's pahutan, there's Indian mango, which does not come from India. There is, ano ba yun? Carabao mango, which does not look like a Carabao. And what's the point? The point is, language is culture index. And therefore, it's only a means of communication. And part of the othering is using certain language which supposedly the rest of us idiots do not understand. Notice how Spain did not give us the language, but mercifully, the US gave us the language. Two different kinds of colonization models, isn't it? I took, I don't know, 1,000 years of Spanish and never spoke because I hated Spain. But you know, I should not hate something I don't know. I was not yet born there then. So language should not have any flag. Anyone who wants to put a flag on language, oh, I don't know, expunge him from your friend list. I-unfriend mo siya, which I know already how to do in the Facebook. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yes, somewhat.
What a very long name you have. Does it mean anything, Jeconiah?
Well, Germans have long names.
Oh, you're German?
Yes.
Well, yes, I have set you apart again from me. Yeah, okay. You just live in a geography far away from here. Yes. Nasa is there a moderator? Parang ako moderator dito. Joey, ikaw na lang moderator.
Maybe have our last question.
Yeah, last question na daw. Guys, I'll give, Nasef knows my email, no? Wag niya naman ako lunurin ng question. But yes, you can continue conversing with me in the email. I cannot add any more in the Facebook. I wonder why I had 5,000 friends. I don't even know them. Yeah.
So we can have, ma'am, we can have last two questions from this
sige.
gentleman and the one in white. After.
Sige, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Martin Morales from the Far Eastern University. I study international studies, and my question is about the othering, which is, we saw in the PowerPoint that it has many negative effects, and my question is it also possible to have a positive effect from the othering?
A passive?
A positive effect.
A positive. Yes, thank you for the question. I'm glad you raised that question. The question is, what I had described earlier in the brief presentation are all the negatives of the othering, this setting apart, the distancing from. But is there also a positive effect? Indeed. The positive effect is wanting to experience the same thing, the commonalities. I'm sure students in Syria, students in Turkey, students in North Korea, students in China who are prevented from seeing the Facebook, they are also seeing you from some other means. And they're saying, why is it that teenagers in FEU can in fact enjoy these things? The demonstration effect is very powerful. And China cannot continue to contain half of its population who are young people. And they're going to vote with their feet the moment they get a passport. Yes, there is a positive effect of the othering, but you should put the verb embracing the other. Embracing the other is recognition that also like you, they want to sleep on a warm bed at night. They also want to have a home. The parents also want their children to be doctors, engineers, etc., which, if you will notice, sometimes we don't even give the others, the Muslims, that kind of opportunity, isn't it? So you tell them, let's build up the walls. But let us ask them, why did you have refugees? Why do you have refugees from Afghanistan? Why do you have refugees from Iraq? Why do you have refugees from Somalia and from Morocco and from Mali, etc.? The short answer, and I get so livid with anger whenever I discuss this in my geopolitics class, It's because you have pillaged Africa. You have ravaged that country. You have introduced weapons to that country when once upon a time, the only weapon that they had was a bow and arrow, and at the tip of that is poison. And that is for them to hunt for food. The refugees were created by the Western world. Who invaded Afghanistan? Who invaded Iraq? Do you see the most delicate statement that you as scholars can make is the one that starts with I know? I know there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Therefore, we invade them. So many stupid, idiotic minds, and you know the consequences. Thousands of Iraqi lives, American lives, young lives killed because people did not bother to defend their predicates. People did not bother to research whether indeed there were weapons of mass destruction. But why did they make those claims that there were biological, chemical, and radiological weapons there? Because they were the ones who sold them to Saddam Hussein. The US, Germany, France, Britain. You as IS students, NASEF, I hope you bring this home in your classes. These are the ones who created the refugees. These are the ones who created the ISIS. This is not a beef for the ISIS. I'm sure if I were living in that geography, I would be an ISIS. I would rebel against the oppression of my peoples, the destruction of all the artifacts of mankind. These are the inequalities, isn't it? These are the inequalities. How is it that, you know, have you seen the list of the most wealthy Filipinos? The most wealthy having multi-billion, what is the term there? Wealth. Net worth. I don't know. One of them I know has more than 400 cars. There are only 365 days in a year. Hello? Pa-donate naman yung iba dito sa mga poor. Do you see the huge inequality? That I want you, as scholars, to address. Not only to understand, but to find ways to reduce this inequality. I know I sound preachy, but yes, you have to be preachy. You cannot just understand what is happening around you as scholars. You've got to do something about it. And PHISO is a vehicle for you to do something about it. I'm sure NASEF is, you know, every day with the offices of the PHISO, they're looking and looking for scholarships, scouting around all over for scholarships for you to be educated and to study elsewhere in the world. Because that is the way to breach the divides in our minds. Okay, one more question.
Mr. Limba, you can ask your last question for the open forum.
Good morning. I am Mansour Limba from the Ateneo de Davao University. One short comment and then my question. If we aspire to become citizens of the world, and when we achieve that one, the inhabitants of other planets would become our others. So why not directly aspiring for citizenship of the universe instead? My question is like this. The politics of othering, one manifestation is in the context of human rights. For example, other countries which pose as defenders of human rights and champions of democracy, they try to lecture us, their others, about human rights. It is the same countries that unleashed dogs of war in the different parts of the world. For example, in the Middle East, they unleashed dogs of war in the name of God, but God in different spelling, O-I-L. So how do you comment on this?
Thank you very much. I could not agree with you more. I like the concept of citizen of the universe, although it has some hints of conquering other planets. Yes, I'm sure you have experienced physically the othering in many vile ways. I lived in New York for some time, doing my first postdoctoral, and I lived in the university. So the many discriminations that people like us with non-white skin had experienced and documented, I did not experience, because university people are learned peoples. University people are tolerant peoples. University people know that if I were to tear away your skin off your flesh, all of us are the same in our DNA. So I hope you guys, ladies particularly, please don't whiten your face. Please don't follow Chris Aquino, who says, if you have white armpits, you are more lovable. Why? Do you know the white people, they go under this, I don't know what you call this contraption, so they will become brown. And we stupid people, we already have the best color, and we want to become white. Hello? Part of the othering, isn't it? So, I leave you, ladies and gentlemen, I as scholars all, like me, please propagate the concept of the othering in your own publics. Post it on the Facebook so we can disseminate this better. And yes, let us talk of the pluses and the minuses of the othering. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clarita Carlos. Now, may we call on our Dean, Joel Chavez and Frances Cruz, to present our certificate of appreciation and our token to our keynote speaker. Please come on stage. Can you please come in front na lang? May I read the certificate? The Philippine International Studies Organization and the Department of International Studies, in cooperation with the Global South Caucus, presents the certificate of appreciation given to Dr. Clarita Carlos for sharing her invaluable insights as a keynote speaker at the International Conference on International Studies held on March 8 to 10, 2017 at Far Eastern University, signed by the President of the PHISO, Frances Antoinette Cruz, Program Head of Department of International Studies, Mr. Mark Salvador O. Isla, and the Dean, Institute of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Joel Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you very much, PHISO, for giving me a book and a plaque. You know, my whole house is full of plaques. And there is one from the Philippine Air Force, Dean, which is a huge, huge eagle, no? I hope it's a Philippine eagle. So please, next time, your guests, please give them books. I love books. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clarita Carlos. And now, we will have our 15 minutes coffee break. So for those who are paid participants, you may show your stub, and then they will just